Yo, what it is, you know what it is. It's your man, King Musa. Welcome to the Cheat Sheet, where we decode success for creators, professors, and business owners. I'm your host, King Musa, and today we'll be getting into the details of forestry and agriculture with a leader who's making a significant impact in these crucial fields. We're excited to have Dr. Matthew McBroom, Associate Dean of the College of Forestry and Agriculture at Stephen F. Austin State University, with us today. Dr. McBroom has extensive experience in forestry and environmental sciences, and we're eager to hear about his career journey and exciting initiatives happening in his college. Welcome, Dr. McBroom.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yes, sir. Welcome, welcome. Now, like I said before, I've talked to the dean, Hans William. I talked to the chair, Douglas Smith. Now, I have to ask you, right? What is your favorite? The parks, national parks. Yes.
My favorite one is Yellowstone National Park because it has a little bit of everything. And we have an opportunity to take students up to Yellowstone as part of one of our classes that we teach. And we've done research up there, myself and Dr. Pat Stevens-Williams in our department, Dr. Ray Darville over in sociology. So we cross disciplines in that regard. And it's just the most, in my mind, the most epic and phenomenal place, from the wildlife, the geothermal features. We had Biscuit Basin blow up right before our students got there this past July. And just as far as the mountains, the features, and just getting out and helping our students see other ecosystems and experience those sorts of things. So yeah, man, Yellowstone is my go-to place. I've been there like 6 or 7 times now, and every time it's new for me.
So what's important about these ecosystems that you won't find, let's say, out here in Nacogdoches?
A big one is wolves and bison. We don't have the wolves running wild, and we certainly don't have the bison while we have our cattle, which is important for our ag industry and so forth. But seeing wild bison on the landscape and seeing the effect that wolf reintroduction has had in that ecosystem over the last, say, 25 years since they first brought the wolves in, fundamentally changed everything. My area is hydrology and water quality is what I study. And bringing the wolves back, bringing back those 50-something wolves on the first reintroduction in the late 90s, fundamentally improve the water quality. You wouldn't think, how do wolves make water cleaner? Because by reducing the pressure that the elk and the deer are putting on the riparian species, the trees and stuff around the creek, that means the creeks are in better shape. That means the fish are in better shape, all because those wolves are there doing their thing, making those elk act like elk. And the bison also, to a large extent. So this past summer, we got to actually see wolves feeding on a carcass. Big grizzly came up, ran the wolves off, and they were having this big duking it out back and forth.
Really?
Yeah.
The grizzly and the wolf?
Man, the grizzly got all mad.
What?
And the grizzly starts rolling. It's a bison carcass. The grizzly just starts rolling and all over his back and stuff. Because he's like, man, this is mine. Y'all get off. And then the female wolf come around, and they started ganging up on the poor grizz. So he grabs a bite, runs off. They start eating. I mean, we sat there for like 2 hours. We got there at sunrise, and just, I mean, and then the wolf started howling, because they're like, man, get off my kill. And the bear's like, no, it's mine now, buddy. I rolled in it.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
It was.
That's cool. And I didn't know wolves make that much of an impact in an environment and everything. So that's...
honestly, it surprised me. I remember when it happened, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. That's about a 5 million acre ecosystem up there. I thought, yeah, they'll make a difference. But how fast and how dramatic, each time I go back to the park, it's changed. And there's other things going on too besides just the wolves. But they've been one of the key factors. So that actually surprised me and a lot of researchers.
Yes, sir.
So, we're not going to have timber wolves roaming East Texas in the same way.
No time soon.
Maybe out in West Texas or something. But no, that's just something that's epic that we can take our students to see and experience. And I think, we can show videos. We got the Ken Burns Park series that are phenomenal. PBS is doing a new park series right now. It's great. But, man, there's nothing like getting out and seeing it. Standing there.
Real nature.
Hearing those wolves howl, and it echoes through the mountains and stuff. And it's just takes your breath away.
You sound excited about what you do. So I'm going to need you to introduce yourself and tell us what you do here at SFA.
Well, my name is Matthew McBroom. I started out as a forest hydrologist. So my job is to study how we do forestry and manage our forests and other lands to minimize the impacts on water quality, because clean water is huge, but we got to have both. We got to have a sound economy, good timber and ag economy,
Right.
and clean water. And so the passion of my career has been, we can have our cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
It's not either the environment or the economy. We're going to do environment plus economy and make both better than they would have been otherwise.
Dude, that's so cool. What a sales pitch. I like that.
Well, I
I
mean,
like that.
it's something that kind of evolved over time, because I started out here in 1991. I started in forestry as an undergraduate. And I came to SFA because they had the best forestry program as far as I knew at the time. And I still believe that. I'm a little biased, of course, but nonetheless.
You're going to find us everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, But then I finished up my bachelor's, and by then my then girlfriend, now wife, we got married. And she still had another year of accounting.
Right.
And so I'm like, man, I'm still in NAC because we're going to move out west. We're going to do these epic things.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, my major professor then, Dr. Ming-Tay Chang, who was the hydrologist here at the time, he's like, do you want to work on a graduate research project? I'm like, I don't even know what that is, man.
Yeah.
And so I got into that, got an assistantship, did a really cool study looking at poultry litter and how we can minimize the effects of the poultry industry on water quality.
Yes, sir.
And then I got offered a position. So I worked for Temple Inland as a forester in Diboll, and I loved it. It was a great job. Got to do everything from fire to land management to wildlife management, timber management. And then one day, my former major professor calls me up, Dr. Chang, and says, well, you ready to come back for your PhD? I'm like, no, man. My wife and I were set. We're dual income, no kids. You know, life is good. We'd done our first trip to Yellowstone because we could finally afford to travel. You know?
Right.
When you're a starving student. And like, you know, go in the right direction on the student loans.
Yes,
not really interested in
digging out more.
And he's like, well, come on up and talk to us. And the then dean, Dr. Scott Beasley, was also a forest hydrologist. They talked me into it. And we had a great study that we did just west of the town of Alto. And that's how I ended up with getting my PhD here.
Right.
It was challenging in a lot of ways, a lot of dark nights of the soul. Like, what did I just do? My boss at the time at Temple Inland, and I had a great career at Temple. I love the people. And I told him, I said, man, I'm going to resign. And I was looking at a pretty good promotion and had a couple pretty good raises. And he said, man, what have you thought about the finances of this? And I said, well, yeah. He says, you know what you're making now, and we're fixing to give you about a 15, 20% raise. I'm like, yeah. And he said, okay, let's say you get that PhD in 4 years and you become an assistant professor. What's your salary going to be? I'm like, not much more than I'm making right now.
Right.
Plus you're foregoing 4 years of income. And I said, yeah. And his name was Butch Miller. I said, yeah, Butch, I understand. But I feel like this is what I need to do.
Dude.
And he laughed and he said, man, here's all I can tell you. Those who can do, those who can't teach.
Wow.
And he was messing with his wife's a teacher. So
he was digging. Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, Butch, man, I get that. But this is what I got to do. And they were very supportive. He was messing with me.
Right.
And the corollary that I've learned to that as I've moved from beyond just my teaching and my research is those that can't teach move into administration, which is not true. Dr. Williams, he taught me physiology. He's a great teacher. Ditto for Dr. Smith, and that's generally true. But that's the joke that we tell.
Right.
But no, the career just kind of happened. You know, I had a student in my office yesterday. She's a sophomore. And we were chatting. She's getting some advice on courses. She wants to do a study abroad, and I was helping her out. And so I asked her, I said, what are you going to do with your life? And she looked at me and said, when you were my age, did you know what you wanted to do with your life? And I said, yeah, touche, you got
Clear.
you
Clear. Great job.
I did not. When I was a sophomore at SFA, majoring in forestry, I had no idea where the world would take me in life and everything. But no, it's been great. SFA's been good to me. So moral of the story is here I am about 32 years later.
Right.
Still at SFA, and don't regret a second of it.
Yes, sir.
SFA's been good to me, and hopefully I've been an asset to SFA.
Yes, sir. Okay. I can't let you steal all the questions in one question, so we're going to break some of that down.
Okay, cool.
Let's take a step back, though, first. Where did you grow up? You know, how many siblings? Did your parents go to college? And how did you find an interest in agriculture and forestry?
Oh man, that's a good question. So I grew up in a rural area. I graduated from Rusk High School in 91, so not too far away.
Yeah.
And I always had a passion for the outdoors. And some of it's growing up in the rural area. My dad took us hunting and fishing and kind of classic stuff and outdoor recreation. And I don't know, it was just kind of natural to me that I enjoyed outdoors. But I didn't really think that I could make a living at doing this, right? And so it was like our sophomore year of high school, and we're doing the whole pick a career thing. And so I was going to be an engineer because I enjoyed science. I enjoyed math. I was pretty good at math. and I was going to go to A&M, be an engineer.
Okay.
And our guidance counselor told us, she said, you know what, look at another university and just thumb through their, back in the old days, we had these printed catalogs. It wasn't online.
Yeah, I had a whole book.
And we had them all spread out on the
Crazy.
table, and all of us are picking up, all the different universities are out there. And so I picked up SFA because I knew it was just up the road, and I said, okay. And I'm thumbing through the catalog, and I go to Forestry. I'm like, wow, they got a Forestry program. And at this course description, at the end of every one of the classes, it said required field trip. And that was like lightning struck my brain.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's a major where you have required field trip.
Yeah.
I mean, those 3 words like just were going neon in my eyes.
Yeah, I like
and so
it.
I'm like, you know what? I'm going to check that out. And so I took one of my college days and came over to SFA, and I'm like, wow. SFA was kind of like a hidden gem.
Yeah.
It's weird, because we come to Nacogdoches for buying groceries, and I knew about SFA. But when I thought about it as the place where I began my career, it's like SFA just was the obvious choice.
Yes, sir.
And from that first semester in the freshman classes there in Forestry, it just, man, I found home basically with that. So, I ended up going back to my guidance counselor. I said, I think I'm going to go to SFA and major in forestry.
Yes, sir.
Instead of engineering, civil engineering at A&M. And she said, oh, no, you don't want to do that. There's no jobs in forestry.
That's a lie.
It is 100%.
That's
and it was,
a lie.
And she kind of deflated me, and I'm not putting her down at all.
Right. But now you're on the other side, so you know what she said is not true.
Right, and that's still out there a little bit. But no, there's phenomenal career opportunity. A lot of fields, of course, but with natural resources and forestry. But I said, you know what, I'm going to go for it. Kind of like when Butch Miller told me, man, you're not going forward financially by being a professor. I'm like, yeah, maybe, but I want to do this. And it's kind of the way, even when I was like, 17 at that point, I'm like, okay, I still want to do forestry. I still want to go for
Pushing against the odds. I like it.
Yes, and it really wasn't. Like you said, it's not true.
Right.
But that's what I wanted to do. And you'd asked about my family's college background. I was the first one of my mom's and dad's side of the family to graduate from college.
Yes, sir.
My mom or dad, they both graduated high school, but they didn't go to college. It just wasn't an opportunity.
Yes, sir.
My grandparents, I think one of my grandmothers graduated high school.
Right.
Because they grew up in the Depression. It was just a different age. And like both my grandfathers quit school in 8th grade because they had to go to work, support the family. And so we grew up as a family having a strong value for education, but none of us had ever done it. So, man, I came over here. I made all the mistakes that a first-gen student makes.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can add them up. Literally, I was coming over here to take my SAT my senior year.
Yeah.
I hit the tracks, the railroad tracks there on Highway 21 coming into town, and I was boogieing too fast. It was on me. Got pulled over. Can't find my insurance. I was in my dad's truck. Couldn't find the insurance papers. And the officer was very nice. I said, man, I'm going to take my college test. And he's finally like, you know what, man, just go. And by then it was like almost time. And so I'm driving up North Street and I'm thinking, I don't know what building to take this test. It's like, it didn't hit me that I don't know where this building is that I'm supposed to be going to take my SAT. I was going to be late anyway. Because in my brain, I'm thinking, I have 40 minutes to NAC. I'll leave a little early. I don't know where to park. Right. I don't know what building to walk to. Right. You got to remember, there's no phones back then, right? So I can't just do my GPS. I was going to have to find somebody on Saturday morning to tell me where this building was.
Oh, my goodness. For the SAT. Okay.
And I got so discouraged, man. I got in my truck. I drove home. I pulled over I was on my way home, and I just pulled over at the Angelina River, and there used to be a little roadside park there. And I got out of the truck, and I was sitting there at the picnic table. I'm like, maybe this isn't for me. The imposter syndrome started kicking into me a little bit. None of my parents, I was the oldest in my family of my siblings. And I'm like, maybe we're just not college people, And so maybe I just need to go get a job. Maybe this college thing isn't for me. And I don't know what it was, it could be God, could be something in me said, no, man, go for it. You can do it. You can do it. Don't let this set you back. And it didn't. And I learned, and I used that as an experience to help build what I now understand is called a growth mindset. Yeah. And like how do you overcome that imposter syndrome? But don't let the negative get you down. Yes, sir. And say, I can do this actually. Yes, sir. I can do something that no one in my family has done. Now, since then, several of my cousins and my sister, they've gone on to college degrees, but I was just kind of like the first one because I was
trailblazer,
oldest. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Among that cohort.
Yes, sir. Now, outside of forestry and education, what are your interests, hobbies, and like passions?
Well, pretty much anything outdoors.
Okay.
Man, I love, enjoy hunting. Don't get to do it as much because my semester is always so busy.
Right.
Fishing, I do that a lot, and hiking and camping and stuff like that.
Yes,
And
sir.
gardening in my young lawn. I keep bees
You
just for
keep
I
bees.
do, yeah.
Interesting. Do
Yeah.
you like grow your own honey?
I do. In fact, my
Okay.
wife sells it at the farmer's market when we have excess. But yeah, I just got into that because I love all things agriculture and forestry. I just love
Wow.
being outside and engaging with stuff. It's my therapy,
Yes, sir.
come home after a long day and just get outside, even if it's hot and sweating, whether it's cutting the grass or, something a little more fun, I just like being outside.
There's nothing wrong with the outdoors. I completely understand.
I've gotten to where, like with hunting, when I go, if I kill something or not, almost part of me is like, I just soon not because I love hunting. I
Right.
love the meat, man.
Hmm.
But I'm like, that's just when the work begins. But I'm just here. Like,
Yeah.
being here is the point. Even when I'm fishing, sometimes it's like nothing's biting. I'm like, I'm on the water, man.
Yes, sir. Okay. I never understood the fishing one. Um, I didn't grow up fishing and things like
Mhm.
that. One of my best friends did, and
Yeah,
he used to love going out there. And he's like, bro, it don't matter if I catch anything or just not. It's just about being out here. I'm like,
yeah. Man, a bad
maybe
day at
it's
the
due an
lake's better than a
experience.
good day at work. No,
Yes, sir.
actually, I love my job, but nonetheless, yeah, I totally get what he's saying.
Yes, sir. Okay. You mentioned loving your job, so we're gonna go
Mhm.
ahead and dive into a little bit more career questions.
Uh-huh.
My first question for you is, what has been some exciting initiatives or programs, or what is the vision for the College of Forestry and Education? I mean, in agriculture.
I think to help students develop their potential
Hmm.
to become professionals that can solve all of our not all start solving and working on our environmental challenges and
Right.
problems. I look at problems as opportunities. That's part of that growth mindset thing that I was talking about earlier now. And the deal is I'm training people that are going to be working long after I'm done.
Yes, sir.
And so the idea that we've got long-term challenges are
Hmm.
going to take long-term solutions is helping our students meet that potential. So,
Right.
the number one initiative I would say for our college across the board is to help students develop into their number one potential in the future.
Yes, sir.
And having said that, it's an exciting time having joined the UT system. We're
Hmm.
actually really excited about the opportunities, not just for SFA, but for our college as well.
Hmm.
The UT system looks at it like one of the reasons why they wanted to come looking at SFA so hard is because, yeah, we're over here on the other side of the pine curtain
Right.
from Austin and some of their other branch campuses. But we bring that diversity
Right.
to their system, and they're excited about that. And they've been pretty good about investing. I don't know if Dr.
Hmm.
Williams or Dr. Smith mentioned we're getting a new building.
Right.
We're
They
still
didn't give me too much about it, but
yeah, we got actually our buildings for everybody that knows campus. The forestry building is going to be taken down completely, and it's going to be a construction site for about 3 years or so, is what they're telling
wow.
us. But it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be a 4-story complex,
Yeah.
and forestry and ag are coming together in one building now,
Yes, sir.
which is great because we've been separated, in 2 different buildings on campus forever.
Dude, that's
And
so exciting.
it is, and so it's an exciting time. And then research-wise, even though I have a lot of administrative duties as
Mhm.
associate dean, I've still got research studies I'm doing. I brought in 3 students from Nepal recently, and that's been
Mhm.
great.
Yes, sir.
And they're doing everything. They're looking at Lanana Creek water quality because Lanana is listed as one of the polluted streams on
Right.
EPA's list. And so one of my students, Swastika Acharya, she's working on that and looking at measuring the E. coli, but
Mhm.
also she's looking at optical brighteners. I mean, actually, she kind of came up with this, and it's a cool idea. But optical brighteners go into everything, like
Okay.
paper, clothing. It's how you make your whites whiter, your brights brighter.
Yeah.
You name it, we put optical brighteners in it. They're not necessarily harmful for the environment at the concentrations we see. The bacteria are,
Yeah.
but we can use it like to trace where the bacteria may be coming from. Because
Okay.
if it comes pretty much every time you flush, every time you take a shower, all your soaps, shampoos have optical brighteners. Not all, but most of them do,
Mhm.
And again, I'm not saying that's a harmful thing, but I can use that as a tracer, or she is. And
Yeah.
so we can pull those 2 things together. And so there's that, and just a lot of studies that I still get to work on to help with water quality and help develop those students.
Yes,
So
sir.
yeah, and obviously our helping our undergraduates develop, our excitement about being part of the UT system, and the research opportunities that I have here in NAC at SFA has been great.
Yes, sir. Okay. Now, I do have to ask you, what was the process of becoming the associate dean? Were you a teacher first?
Yeah.
And then kind of how did you work your way?
So I started out as an assistant professor. I mentioned Dr. Chang earlier. He retired, and they did a national search for a new forest hydrologist, and I came out on top, which was great. Because again, I wasn't really sure which way life was going to take me. If my career's at SFA, that's great. But if it's somewhere else, I had some opportunities, maybe at University of Florida or Auburn. I was looking at some of that, but I got the offer here at SFA, and I was like, yeah, this is actually going to work out pretty good. I had a really good offer with National Council for Air and Stream Improvement.
Right.
But the way life goes together, we were fostering 2 children in the process of adopting.
Yes.
And we technically couldn't leave Texas for another year in that process because they're under the Texas foster system. And the company there, or the agency, NCASI, said, you know what, we'll let you work in Texas if you'll come.
Right.
And the pay was pretty good, and I thought, wow, maybe that's my sign. But then whenever I got the offer to be an assistant professor, I'm like, I want to teach.
Yeah.
A big part of what I want to do, because NCASI, I'd have done more research,
right.
which is great, and work with NGOs and stuff. But I'm like, no, I want to be in the classroom.
Yes,
I think
sir.
I can do this. And so, man, I got my first class. It was not something I was over my head. And
right.
sometimes I do best when I'm over my head. I look back and a little bit of sympathy for my first couple classes, because I was developing, I was learning, you know. And but over time, I had great opportunities here. Of course, SFA, the support for teaching has always been up there. Man, I got boats. I got opportunities to take my students to the woods and to the creeks and grow and everything. And so I improved as a teacher over time. Sir. And then there's an opportunity that came up when our then dean became the provost. And the associate dean, Dr. Williams, moved up to the interim dean. And so they asked me, hey, would you want to be interim associate dean?
Yeah.
I'm like, I have no idea. I've never done this before.
Right.
It was almost like that moment I had when I was coming to take my SATs. Like I felt that imposter syndrome. Like, should I be in leadership in academia?
Right.
I mean, I love teaching, and my students, I think, are doing pretty good and everything. But so I got in, learned it, had a great mentoring, great support here from my colleagues and so forth. But and then it ended up I moved into the associate dean role. It just
Yes, sir.
So, another one of those things, if you'd asked me when I was a sophomore, I'd have said, I have no idea. Like, if you'd have told me you're going to be associate dean of this college, in other words, we're going to swap positions. You're going to be behind the desk. I'd have said, you're crazy.
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm not 100. I was the guy that wasn't 100% sure I should even be in college.
Right.
And it's just doors have opened, and I can look at it as providence and everything else. But I've always, I guess maybe because my parents and grandparents didn't have college degrees, we always had a strong work ethic.
Right.
And, my dad, my grandpas, my mom drilled into my head is you may not be the sharpest tack, but you better be the first one in, the last one out.
Yeah.
Kind of like you do with a good athletics team,
Sir.
We're going to put the work in. And
hard work beats talent. Yeah.
Yeah. And exactly.
Hard work beats talent.
Hard work beats talent. Right. And so maybe I don't have the background in this, but you know what? I can get it. I can learn.
Yes, sir.
And I think that's something that has carried over. I look at that in my life and in the life of a lot of people, my students. I admire so much of what my students overcome to get that college degree.
Yes, sir. Okay, then. No, I think you definitely had enough chances and experience. You have to get your feet wet, and then you adapted, and then you learn and everything. But I do have to ask, what was the hardest challenge in becoming associate dean? Going from teaching the classroom and seeing the transformations in that. What happened, when you got to associate dean?
That's a good question, man. I think for me personally, it was putting my personal thinking and feeling about a situation aside, and taking on the role of an advocate in a way that I have to look at what someone else is thinking and what they're saying. Like, I got my own personal opinion about this, but I'm not just here for me now. I'm here for the faculty, for the students, and so, or for the research opportunities. And so I have to say, well, here's what I would do, but my colleagues are telling me this. All right, maybe that's what we need to do, and not turn it into, well, y'all are wrong, I'm right, kind of thing. So for me, it was putting aside my ego and my sense, because one of the things about accomplishing goals is you're like, okay, I can do this. I can
Yeah.
do this. And you sit down with your colleagues, and whether it's you could name it a hiring decision or a decision how we're going to allocate some finances. I'm like, man, we really need to do this in my mind. And whether it's the dean or other colleagues are like, no, we need to do this. I'm like, man, I just don't see it.
Okay.
But you know what? We're going to do it. And it's a we decision at this point. And I'm not going to play the I told you so card down the road, even if I was right. Because that was a we decision when I walk out of that room and we put it together.
Yes, sir.
And that's and whether it's a university level initiative or even a college or departmental initiative.
Yes, sir.
For me, that was and it's been good.
That's
And I tell you,
humbling.
it is humbling. Another great piece of advice Dr. Williams gave me is with writing. Like when you're sending an email or something, if it doesn't have to go out right now, like write the email, go home, sleep on it, come back in the next morning, read that email again. And it's amazing how many times I've caught myself. I wasn't trying to be like abrupt or rude, but I'm like, oh, I could see where somebody would read that as me being rude.
Yes.
So putting the onus of blame back on myself. If somebody says, man, you were kind of snappy in that, that's not what I was feeling.
Yeah.
But I have to say their perception of what happened, I'm like, I got to take that real.
Yeah.
And I got to put the onus of doubt back on myself and say, okay, how could I have done that better? And so that's where the growth mindset has continued, I think, to be helpful for me.
Yes, sir. Dude, that's appreciated because there's many people who, when it comes to taking accountability, delegation with leadership, that one's a challenge right there. And then, still having to humbly accept what other people think and be willing to try it so they know that they can still participate. They know that, and then you kind of learn to see, okay, cool. This was something that we seen where it went wrong, but we know how it could be fixed. So I like that. Yes, sir. Now, I do have to ask two more questions before we go. The first one would be, what are some exciting things going on in the College of Forestry and Agriculture right now? Other than the building, we know the building is coming up, but kind of excite us. What would kind of draw? What should some of the students and faculty know?
That's a good question. So I would say the fact that UT system has been so serious about engaging in the natural resources arena through our programs.
Yes, sir.
And so along with that has been some great opportunities we've had for teaching and for research and in incorporating our undergraduates and graduates together in that process. So one of the things we look at, like research, in order to be successful at SFA, because we have such a heavy teaching load, I can't just bifurcate my time. Like, okay, I'm going to do this much research and now I'm going to do teaching. They got to go together.
Yeah.
Like my day has to integrate. That means my students are integrating together. And so we've had that mentality in the past, and I think that's going to continue to build into excellence. Our student groups are just doing some phenomenal stuff.
Yes,
we got our Sylvan's Forestry Club, our Wildlife Society, our Society of American Foresters, our ag teams are just doing some amazing work out there. And I'm really just encouraged by the work they're putting in. So I think if a student comes to SFA to major in one of the natural resources fields, you're going to have an inertia and a camaraderie with the students and with the faculty. One of the things I love about my job is I still get to teach 1-2 classes. I actually got a section of SFA 101 this semester. I love it. And my hydrology classes.
Yes,
They keep threatening to take it away from me, but I love it because that's where I learn the students better. I learn their names. I get to hang out with them. 3 hours in the field once a week, out in the woods. You get to know people. And,
yes, sir.
Riding in the vans together. I teach that summer field station course too, where I spend a week with them.
Yeah.
So I think get the students.
Yes,
that's always been the most exciting thing about SFA. And we've had that inertia, man. It was like that when I was an undergrad. We've just had great faculty that have continued that focus on our students.
Yes, sir.
And leadership, man, I tell you, we've been blessed with some amazingly great leaders. And what I try to emulate, kind of going back to your earlier question, this hasn't been as hard for me because I was trained in it, but a good leader, you always own the blame and give the credit.
Yes, sir.
And so when something's going good, you say, look at our students, look at our faculty sponsor, look at the work they did, look at the work that our donors have done. We've been SFA Forestry and Ag. We've had some great alumni and partners that have been helping us out financially with some gifts that have been just foundational to our programs. We can take students to these meetings and give them this encouragement, and because we have some alumni who want to give back, who've had successful careers in whatever area. but they're like, we believe in what SFA is doing. And to me, that's like affirming, when somebody comes back and says, we want to give a gift of whatever amount, it don't matter what the amount is. That's like, man, you're giving your hard-earned income.
Yes.
Because that's how much you believe. Because, a person's belief, your belief is your credit card bill, right?
Right.
And what do you spend your money on? And when somebody wants to spend money on us, any area of
after they already got their degree, so now you're
right.
That's sweet, yeah.
And so that's a big encouragement to me also when our alums come along and partner with us in that way, in whatever way.
Yes, sir. Now, this one I've been waiting for this question. This is gonna be our last question because you seem like you have all the gems. You learn perseverance. You learn about hard work and just taking those opportunities and everything. So what advice, what lesson, what key pointers would you give students who are not only pursuing college for forestry and agriculture, but to our seniors as well? They're looking to get into the career field and everything. What advice would you give them?
One of the lessons I've learned is we tend to overestimate what we can get accomplished in a year and underestimate what we can do in 10 years.
Okay.
And there's a lot of ways that consistency is what just pays off. And so sometimes because you're so caught up in the tyranny of the immediate, you got this paper due, you got this test coming up, and you don't get that chance, it doesn't feel like you're making progress. Or it's kind of like, if you have a workout goal or something.
Yeah.
You're in the gym, you're doing it, and you're like, man, I haven't moved that much. But a month, it's okay. Come back in 6 months, come back in a year. And 10 years of putting in the effort, putting in the work, you can accomplish so much. Well, it's like this with finances. Probably most people know.
Right.
If you save a little bit now, and you're like 3 years later, I'm like, man, what's happening?
Yeah.
And then when you get to like age 50, 60, you're like, oh, wow,
Little
that
goes a
compounding
long way.
interest is a thing,
Yes, sir.
And I got more money than I ever would have thought I could have had just by being consistent, by having that goal and sticking with it. So, to me, it's setting those goals, but don't get discouraged when it feels like you're not accomplishing it in the shorter term, because longer term, that's when it's going to really start paying off.
Yes, sir.
I think that the ability for delayed gratification, because college is a big delayed gratification thing. You could go out, economy's good enough. Most people could make pretty good wages right now.
Yes, sir.
And you feel like, what am I doing? And I think probably everybody experiences that in various ways. Like, you're 2.5 years in, 3 years in, like, what am I doing, man?
Yeah.
And like, no, keep going. It's going to pay off. It really will. And then, like you say, for graduating seniors, it's like you restart again. You know, it's like high school.
Right,
you
back
graduate.
to the bottom.
Yeah, you graduate. And then you freshman year at university, and it's like that. And then you start a career somewhere.
Okay.
And same kind of thing there. You're the low person on the totem pole. You got so much to learn. You feel like you're overwhelmed. Probably going to have some imposter syndrome. Like, man, what am I doing working for this agency or this company? And again, put the work in every day. Consistency. Get up, put the work in, do it again, rinse and repeat. And pretty soon you look back and it's like, wow, that's how life works.
Yes, sir. I like it. Well, thank you. Thank you, Dr. McBroom, for joining us today and sharing your insight on forestry, agriculture, and education. It has been enlightening to learn about your impactful work being done here at Stephen F. Austin and the future of this critical field. Remember, listeners, success in any field is rooted in curiosity, dedication, and commitment to sustainability. Subscribe to the Cheat Sheet and follow us on social media to stay connected. This is King Musa signing off, encouraging you to keep learning, keep exploring, and stay grounded in your passion. You have a great day.